Ciao Juventini, and welcome to another episode of the All Juve Cast, episode 106, and of course brought to you by Striped Hearts Apparel, so check that stuff out if you haven't. And with me, another guest making his debut on the All Juve Cast, I have Antonio joining me today. Antonio, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Excellent. It's great to have you on. I'm always thrilled when I get guests joining me for their first time. And you know very well the tradition around here, and it's finding out everyone's story, how they became Juventini. So, Antonio, take it away. I'd love to hear your story.
So, before I start, I just want to say thank you very much for having me. I've been following you for the best part of 2 or 3 months now. So, superb. I really appreciate it. Best part of, I've been a fan now for early 90s, I would say, mid-90s. So my dad, he's Italian, he's from south of Italy. So when I first started Juve, it was back in the good old days when we had Vialli, Ravanelli, Del Piero. Being here in the UK with a programme on BBC, actually Channel 4, it was brought here by Paul Gascoigne when he played with Lazio. So back in the old Italian 90 days. So yeah, basically from the 90s I've been a Juve fan, but I've really not had a choice because my full family are Juve fans. So
oh, there you go. So
always
brought into it by family. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. And yeah, thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the support. And let's have some fun. I know the match we were going to cover was not so much fun for a lot of Juventini to watch. Obviously, 2-0 defeat to Cagliari. But let's kick it off with the lineups, and let's kick it off with how we felt before the match. So the lineups, we had Buffon in goal, Quadrado, Rugani, Bonucci, and Sandro at the back. Bentancur, Pjanic, Muratore in the middle, with Bernardeschi, Higuain, and Ronaldo up top. So these lineups, for me, right away, I just thought, why do we have so many of these guys in and not more of a blend of youngsters? Because to me, in my mind, the way we've played all year, we've been Jekyll and Hyde all year. And this is the second to last match of the season. We've wrapped up serieA. And give these guys rest, because in my personal opinion, with the way we've been playing, you're not going to find that continuity, that fluidity, that style in 2 matches if you haven't found it by now. So why not just try to get as healthy and as rehabilitated and as fresh for that Champions League match as possible? Like, that's the only thing I could think of. Like, and you know, we had good discussions on Twitter where some fans were saying, well, you want this front 3, which is probably going to be the front 3 in that Champions League match, to get some rhythm together and whatnot. I understand that, but when you look at how banged up we are, could you imagine Cristiano Ronaldo going down in a match like this, a nothing match against Cagliari?
Yeah.
Could you imagine, you know, one of these guys like Bentancur going down or something like that? You know, it seems strange to me. Regardless of the lineups, though, I still thought, looking at Cagliari, who was missing a lot of key players for them, respectively, I still thought, you know, we'll pull this one out like 2-0, like it's Cagliari, you know, like, but it seems that Juventini were not the only ones with hangovers from the celebration. So let's get your thoughts, Antonio. What do you think when you see a lineup like this in a match like this?
I think when I've seen the first initial lineup, I was okay with certain elements of it. But I agree with you. I mean, what do we do? What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go as a club? Do we want to beat Cagliari and get Ronaldo Capocannoniere, or do we want to keep him fresh, ready for the Lyon game? Because personally speaking, I think Ronaldo, Bentancur, and Quadrado, and Bonucci, even though, to be quite honest with you, I think the guy shouldn't be there next season. But I really think Quadrado, Bentancur, and Cristiano should be rested these last 2 games. When I seen Ronaldo on the team sheet yesterday, I almost predicted to a T what kind of game he was going to have as well. He looked very frustrated through the game, trying impossible shots from silly angles when the pass was on to the left or to his right. I just don't see why he was playing from the start. I think at some point, Sarri would have had the conversation with Ronaldo to say, listen, we really don't want you playing here. We understand you're a record breaker, you're trying to beat all these records, but I think we need to be realistic and say Immobile was 4 goals ahead of him before a ball was kicked yesterday. So realistically, he's not going to catch him. So why play the guy? Why is he not being a bigger manager and saying, do you know what, man management, you're not playing and that's it. Why is Ronaldo picking and choosing when he plays? Now I get it, I understand, but it's Juve, it's not, again, you know, it's not a Napoli, it's not a Roma, with all due respect to them. The manager should be saying to Ronaldo, we've got Leon coming up, you've scored 31 goals, you've broke all kind of records, let's just take a seat. And we all knew what kind of game it was going to be when he started, when he was on the team sheet.
Yeah, he's and that's the thing too is you know, it's been speculated by fans too that he did the same thing at Real with Zidane. Zidane would constantly ask him, you know, are you fit? Do you want to go in there or whatnot? But there was a time where Zidane actually did have the discussion with him and just said, hey, you know what? He barely played him for league games in a stretch because he wanted him fresh for Champions League. And Ronaldo's got to understand that too. And even if Agnelli would have to get involved at that point, it's like, we invested the money in you. We brought you in for a particular competition, more so than domestically, right? But yeah, to chase that, yeah, and the frustration's been all over him, especially in this one. But
He was so frustrated last night.
yeah, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. And Bentancur being in this lineup, I've noticed his play drop off tremendously because he looks beat. His legs are usually one of his strong suit as far as how much ground he can cover and just defensive abilities and box to box. And he hasn't looked himself. So we get to the match though, and 4 minutes in, Muratore having a shot from just outside the area, and I like that he was actually like, here's a young kid doing what some of our midfielders don't do, which is you see a lane to goal, take a shot. So I like that. 6 minute in, Bentancur actually played a nice little through ball to Higuain, which was stopped. So I thought, okay, this is a promising start, like not so bad. And then all of a sudden, like 2 minutes later, Cagliari comes up, and we just are so bad positionally that our midfield was so narrow. Cagliari got the ball over to one midfielder who was still inside the area, but Sandro was left caught. He either stayed out on the wing or this player could run up to the top of the 18 and have a rip. So Sandro completely abandons the winger. And you know, everybody can have their mixed feelings on that one. The midfielder was all our midfield was pushed over. There's nobody really there. I think there probably would have been a different play if, you know, you had the time. Hindsight's 2020, but this is what happens when you have a backline that Rugani is involved in, because theoretically he should have pushed Bonucci up and Sandro should have stayed on that winger, but it is what it is. Sandro goes, they get the ball out to the wing. He has an easy cross in, and then it was Cuadrado at the back post, which has been an issue. His back post marking has just been an issue all season. And yeah, he lets it go, but then regardless of that, the ball gets played back into the middle, and it's in the back of the net. It's just another leaky goal, you know, because we've just become really poor positionally, and that's the thing that was highlighted in this one, as well as communication. Just communication in the defensive phase has just been non-existent. So yeah, 1-0 down, 8 minutes in, and it's just like, really, 9.5 minutes in, Cuadrado crosses it in, and instead of crossing it in, I should say, which would have been the play, we had everybody in the area. He decides he's going to dribble, and then he takes a shot. I think it ended up in my backyard when I got home from work. I think I saw it back there. Unbelievable. Like, just keep it simple. Cross the ball in. You know, like, we have everybody up there, and then he starts doing this dribble. Well, if he loses that, and we have all these guys pressing, what's going to happen? We're just getting countered. So it's just frustrating stuff, right? We keep going in. 15th minute, disallowed Ronaldo goal for offside. Burnham made a decent run in, played the ball, but it was too late as far as timing. Ronaldo did find goal, but yeah, to no avail. 21st minute, and this is where I just kind of laugh because it's the same thing we've been seeing. The ball gets worked over to the left. Muratore gets it. He looks to the side. There is nobody there. There's absolutely nobody there. Sandro clues in that he's looking there and then moves up. And I'm just thinking, my God, like how does this continuously happen? Now, I know the number one defense when I get this, because I'm on this all the time because it drives me nuts. It's natural progression. If you're looking to move up there at the time that the player's going to there and you're not even there in position, you have failed. You have failed at your position. You have failed at what you're trying to do. I understand, tired, all that, whatever. But if it's not happening, then it's up to the coach. And then the coach needs to get somebody in there that's going to do it. And if he has nobody that's going to do it, then it's up to management to get somebody in that's going to do it. This is unacceptable of a team with objections like ours year after year after year. It's a failure to watch this repeatedly. And so he's not there. Muratore goes back in. He's got no choice but to play it back into areas where guys are covered because the space, there's nobody there in the space. I understand when people use the defense that if Sandro goes, we have no coverage. That is just garbage. Again, this is something that's up to the coach. It's not up to the player. Okay, so if he's going to make that, we play with a regista, a deep line playmaker. So theoretically, what should be happening, our Metsalas should be the ones in the advanced positions. He should always kind of be in behind there. So if one of your fullbacks on either side goes, you essentially still have three across the back to deal with something. You know, that's typically how you should generally play that if you're going to play that style. Even if you didn't have a regista three-man midfield, when the play's in the opposite end, that fullback on the opposite side should be dropping back just to kind of swing those CBs over, the center backs over for coverage. This is something that needs to be seen by the coach and dealt with. But Sandro's not doing it at all. And whether he's instructed to or whatnot, I don't even care. It's laughable to watch. It's so frustrating. But I saw that in the 21st minute. And I had to laugh because it's just, here we are at the end of the year getting ready for the return leg against Lyon, and we're in no better shape by any means, you know. 24th minute, yellow for Pjanic. Sarri gets booked as well. That makes Pjanic suspended for the next one, and this made it his actual last serieA match with us right here. 31st minute, Bonucci actually gets a volley, like an instinct type shot, goes wide, decent attempt. 37th minute, Higuain almost buries off corner, just misses it on the volley. And, you know, yeah, 46th minute, here we are again. Shocking defending. Bonucci just not closing space with Simeone there. Simeone made one feint, and that was it. And then, really, I thought Buffon should have saved it. I thought he should have stopped that shot. It had a little bit of a swerve and dip to it, but he should have stopped it, in my opinion. 2-0 at the half, and I saw the frustration amongst Juventini on Twitter all over that. I actually was not surprised because we have played – this is exactly how we've played for almost the season in its entirety. So I wasn't surprised at how we played. We had a lot of useless possession, slow, very, very slow. And again, we're just not utilizing the space. And our crossing is so bad. You know, like it's just we fall back. Like, where have we heard this before? We've heard this all last season too. We resort to crossing the ball in. And our guys just – they're so inaccurate. But what are you thinking at half here? I was honestly not surprised with how we were playing. The difference now, I should say, Antonio, for me personally, is now I just feel like we get punished more.
Yeah.
Whereas before, when we were playing this way, we weren't getting punished, but now we're starting to get punished more and more often, and the lapses are becoming more frequent, which is the kind of concerning part. Is that before you would have these lapses where we couldn't put together full matches. Now it's getting longer and longer stretches of time where we look really, really bad, right? So what are your thoughts at half?
Uh, to sum up in one word, it's disappointing. I mean, we should be beating teams like Calgary.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer if you've got a better player on the pitch, win a game. 9 times out of 10, you should win the game. You touched on a few points there that I totally agree with. Bonucci and Rugani, as soon as you see those two guys paired together in a starting lineup, you know there's a goal or 2 goals you're going to concede. Because between the two of them, they seem very. Rugani is just so timid. I mean, the guy for a centre half, he's just so timid. It's so frustrating to see, especially in a league like serieA, where you've got so many number 9s that they'll throw you about. They'll try and get in your face a bit. He just seems so standoffish. He just seems like a boy lost. I probably think he doesn't know himself how he's managed to get the club with that stature.
Yeah.
Bonucci, I mean, I've not got a witch hunt against the guy. I've got nothing personal against him. But when he left, he should have never come back. I think Bonucci is one of those kind of guys as well, where it's kind of what I touched on before with Ronaldo. He almost picks and chooses the games he's played, and I don't know where he gets this confidence from, and I don't know how he is able to do this, considering the fact that he's not a good defender. He's a great football player. He's never a defender. And he doesn't have a guy like Chiellini, Delit, Demiral beside him. So many mistakes. In fact, the 2 goals that we conceded last night, the first goal was just a total mess. I mean, the balls actually came across the box twice. Before you see Bonucci and Rugani watching the ball go by them and then watching the ball coming back again, I can't help think Delit, Demiral, Chiellini, totally different defenders. They're almost attracted to that particular play. Chiellini is like a magnet. He would have sensed that danger the first time. If not, he would have definitely picked up the second time.
Yeah.
The second goal again, straight, so direct, ball over the top. Bonucci wandering again, ball watching, too concerned what's going on in front of him, not looking for the defender. And let's face it, I mean, I could probably beat the guy for pace. He's got no pace whatsoever. I totally agree with you. Buffon did have, I mean, he should have done better, but I'll put it down. He's not getting a lot of gameplay. And let's face it, the guy's 42. I think 42, 43.
Yeah, 42. The interesting with Bonucci is I have given him praise for what he's done with the young guys coming in and filling in for Chiellini and whatnot. But there's no doubt in my mind next year we just go with the young guys because Chiellini's got the injury issues and whatnot. But Bonucci lately, maybe I jinxed it because it was right around when I was giving him the praise just recently that he just has tanked and he's lost himself. But these things, he is a guy that, he is dependent on that partnership. He needs the guy that's aggressive. He needs the guy that talks, that makes the calls and whatnot. Bonucci doesn't make those calls, but he needs that guy that's going to go out there and attack, and then he can sit back and kind of get the ball and then distribute and whatnot. So he is very center back pairing. It's very important for him. Benatia was part of these celebrations. You see the guys reaching out to him on video, and he was reaching out, congratulating everybody. You talked about Bonucci should have never come back. I always said it was very, very strange to me, and I completely understood Benatia's frustration at the time because he played so well for us. He had a fantastic season that season, and we make this switch, and then all of a sudden, he's told it's not going to affect his playing time, and then it completely did. And we just went right back to Bonucci. But I can't help but wonder what that guy would have done. He was big, physical, fit. He was decent on the ball. The guy could score goals too off headers. Like, he was dangerous.
Had aggression as well. He had that proper aggression you need.
Yeah. So
Demiral scored it.
And a lot of people, a lot of Juventini were happy to see him go and just said, "Yeah, get out of here. It is what it is." And I personally was not one of them. I grew pretty fond of Benatia, but yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there. Second half, let's get right through it here. There's not a whole bunch really. I mean, 49th minute, Pedro just misses for Cagliari. 51st minute, Buffon makes a really good save on Simeone, and I'm just thinking, man, they've come out second half. This is gonna be a blowout. You know what's going on here? 53rd minute, again, it's Muratore taking a shot for us. He actually forced a save on this one by the keeper. And then in the 54th, Sandro gets a header off a corner. He did very well actually on this one to direct it to goal. Stopped. 60th minute, Muratore comes out from Matuidi. And I kind of laugh because I'm just thinking, get the youngsters in.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
2-0. Like, I mean, the result is the result, but let's see what the young guys got to do. But we did get a youngster. We got Zanamaki in for Pjanic. All right, let's see what's going on here. Bentancur slid to the Regista role, and we got Zanamaki out there. 67th minute, low hard drive from CR7 gets stopped. 69th minute, again, just laughable defending. Bernardeschi letting Pedro get goal side instead of just taking goal side away on the serial. He's trying to shield them off and almost thinking about taking the ball and moving forward off the pitch when all he's got to do is just get goal side, make sure nothing comes of it. Instead, they almost score on the opportunity, and it's just the defense is just shocking to me.
It's poor.
Yeah. 76th minute, Peters ends up coming in for Bentancur. I was still surprised we didn't get Wesley out there. You know, that's a guy everybody's kind of waiting to see and whatnot. And then there's really just a whole lot of nothing for the rest of the second half. 94th minute, Zanamaki gets a really nice hit from range and had quite a bit of swerve on it. And he forced the keeper to make a really good save. And that's really it for the second half. We lose this one 2-0, but again, like I say, we see some youngsters, but I would have much rather rested these guys. Like, you know, it just played true to how we all thought, like, get the guys the rest. You're not going to get this fluid play. And, like, nothing's going to click all of a sudden if it hasn't already in these last two matches. But the frustrations of all the Juventini, honestly, this match is exactly how we've played. It's been worse since we've come back after the pandemic break. We had a string of about 3 matches where there was some positive signs, but after that, it's just been completely lost. We are lost. The defense is leaky. Very, very low confidence level in this team, like completely right across the board. We have possession, but we don't know where to go with it. We don't know what to do with it. And then when we start to make the right progressions, guys aren't in the positions they need to be, and we constantly like bunch up on either the left side or the right side. And then when we do switch the ball over, there's no options there. And then we make errors such as we get the ball to Cuadrado or say off a corner kick. All our players are in the area. All he's got to do is put it in there. He doesn't put it in there. He just doesn't cross it in. He starts playing around with it and stuff. It's like, guys, just play the percentages, play smarter. Like, how is this not being seen by Sarri? How is this not being managed? Like, it's so frustrating. But this, to me, has got to be on managers, even Allegri before Sarri, because it's like, if I'm a coach and I'm watching this guy do this, when we have all our players in the area, cross it in there. The defense isn't set, whatnot. Like, it just came off a corner, it comes back out to you, like, have it back in there. I'd be losing it. I'd be yelling and screaming. I'd be like, get that ball in the area. You have Cristiano Ronaldo in there, when he's healthy. We have De Ligt in there. We have Bonucci in there. It's like, have the ball in. You got Higuain in there. We're not having it in. When I see these things repeatedly, when you see the same mistakes positionally, a fullback that's not down the flank, how is this not being directed by the coach? It's really frustrating to watch. And sorry, he's obviously the oldest to win the Scudetto. We've got that sealed. But this match, to me, it's nothing surprising. It was nothing shocking. I didn't even feel that it was our worst performance this season, which if you would have read comments on social media, you would have been led to believe this was our worst performance this season. It wasn't even that. And that's what's kind of scary, right? But I don't know. Sorry, let's talk about this season and sorry and how we've been playing and your personal opinion on it, Antonio, because I know you want to talk about, because everybody's got their thoughts and people are saying sorry needs to go, even though he's won this, because things aren't better. And, I do look at it from a team aspect. We do not have an identity, a style, a clear method. Like there's nothing there, right? We're relying on talent to take over, right? But what are your thoughts?
It's a hard one because, personally speaking, I don't think Sarri, the way he comes across, the way, I know this sounds probably horrible to say, but the way the guy dresses, for example, his press conferences, his post comments, some of the things he says is just, it blows my mind. After the Napoli defeat, where,
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on, if I had to lose to a team, I would rather be Napoli. You shouldn't be losing at all. You're the Juve manager. You should be winning every single game, especially against one of our main rivals over the past few years. But in the other light, I think we need to give the guy a chance because he's not got the side that he needs to adopt Sarriball, okay? When you break it down into a footballing sense, he's got guys like, starting from the back, he's got Rugani, who can't pass a ball. He's got Alexandro, who to me looks as if he checked out 6 months ago. Quadrado, I mean, you're forcing the guy to play right back. Midfield, Matuidi, Khedira, obviously De Chilio, never mentioned, sorry. Pjanic, again, checked out a long time ago. And up front, he doesn't have the balance. I think we'll talk about that later. So he's essentially inherited Allegri's side, who Allegri himself, before he finished up last season, said this team has nothing else to give. That they've done all they can. So yeah. I think we need to give him the chance, and it'll be interesting this Mercado to see what direction you'll be able to tell where we're going with the first couple of signings. I think, personally speaking, the Kulusevski signing, I mean, he's a Sarri signing all day long. I don't care what anybody says. He can play the style that Sarri's looking to adopt, personally speaking. So it looks as if it's a good start. Arthur, he's the kind of guy that you could have seen in that Napoli side that entertained the full world. So you can see that starting to unfold in front of you. However, it's getting the guys, the deadwood almost, and there's a lot there. I mean, you're talking almost 12, 13 players, me personally, that we need to get rid of. And is that going to be doable in one Mercado session? I find it highly unlikely, as I say. So we need to see. I think the guy deserves a chance. That's my overall opinion. He's only had 12 months in a job. Brought in to win the Champions League, but so was Cristiano Ronaldo, brought in to win the Champions League. Brought in to play this lovely, attractive football. You need to remember it took Klopp almost 3-4 years before he done that. They all talk about Atalanta, how good Atalanta are, and yeah, they're fantastic. But Gasperini, the first year in the job, with 5 games without a win.
Yeah.
So you can't compare Atalanta with a side like Juventus or compare the Napoli with Juve. We've got guys who are on a global stature, huge. So to get them to buy into a style of football that, quite frankly, it's hard for them. I know that sounds silly. If you're a professional footballer, you should be able to adapt. But they've had Allegri. His style has been almost drilled into that side, and he has inherited that side.
Yeah, I mean, you speak to these guys like Klopp and even Gasperini and whatnot, but I mean, we're not talking about 5 matches here, and even Klopp, like, you could even in like the first stage, you could see what he was wanting to work towards, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing what he's trying to get to. We saw it at the beginning of the season though. There was flashes, but somehow along the way, and I don't know if it became him changing to the job, you know, but we've lost it. And we've actually gotten to a point where I think we're actually worse off than we were last year when we were really frustrated. Like the way we're playing is worse than last year, in my
Yeah.
opinion. When we were at our wits' end with Allegri and saying it's time to make that switch. I'm just I have a tough time believing that these guys, if Sarri was pressing ideas and whatnot, and we talk about all these scenarios that happen through a match, the positioning being so poor, the fullbacks not being where they need to be, and defensively just being shocking. Like that's like getting worse as later in the season. So even to say that it's the players to get what he needs out of there, I don't. I'm having a real tough time, you know, believing that it's just all these guys. I understand when it comes to maybe a mentality, approach style. This core has been around for so long that they've won so much that it's easy for them to be complacent. And you watch some of these young guys in this match when they entered, they got the fresh legs, they got the drive, like they're going, right? And our guys just aren't there. And I get it that they've been playing this condensed schedule out to wrap up serieA and whatnot, but still, it's just like I'm not seeing anything from Sarri trying to come through the club, come through the team. So we'll see what ends up happening. I do agree, like it's a good start with Arthur Kulusevski. I've even said I thought at the time that they jumped on that one a little too quickly, but he is showing he's having some really good performances the past like 3-4 matches for Parma there. So yeah, hopefully he can continue with us. But you have a theory about CR7 and Dybala as well, playing into things with Sarri, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on that.
My dad, he's crazy Juve fan, so we obviously we watch the games together. Or if we can't watch it, we'll speak over the phone and basically do what we're doing just now, just analyse games and things. So my dad being a bit old school, he's never been a fan of Ronaldo. He's never been a fan of the way he conducts himself. Almost he's what I do matters before the kind of team. My theory is, again, go back to Sarri. We brought Sarri in to play this attractive style of football. Okay, he's never had the personnel there to do so, which we've done. But when you look at his free-flowing Napoli side, yeah, I mean, even I don't really like Napoli. I've never, they're one of our arch rivals, but even I was impressed with the way they played, and I did watch a few of the games. Their main kind of part of the club, part of the team was the front three. Okay? They had Mertens, Insigne, and Callahan. That was the front three. They all knew their positions, and I think you've touched on it before, Alberto, in previous podcasts. We have got no shape at all up front. Up top, we've got no shape. We almost leave Ronaldo. When they're all fit, I would argue that Ronaldo, Dybala, and Douglas Costa as our three main starters when they're all fit. Okay, not one of those three can stick in position. They all have a free rein. Now I get that. If the guys behind you in midfield are doing the job and the defence is doing the job and it's a well-oiled machine. With Ronaldo and Dybala up front together, it's almost as if it's one too many. Now, Paolo's our future. Dybala's going to be obviously a capitano for a long time. He's our number 10, so the club believes in him. I'm so glad that we never sold him last season. I don't get my head around that was almost going to happen.
Crazy.
So what do we do? Do we stick with Ronaldo next year and do the whole same thing again? Because Sarri will never be able to adopt his style of football with Ronaldo on the side. The guy's 35. Now, I appreciate it that we've all enjoyed him when he's been here. He's put on a global scale. We've got 41.2 million followers on Instagram. Before he joined, it was like, I don't know, say 10 million or so.
Yeah.
So off the pitch, he was influential in Billick coming after the Holland game, as I say. So he has done his part. I mean, the guy's 35. He's been so lucky in his career not to have a major injury. So what happens next season if we miss another chance in the Mercado to mould that team round about Sarri's ideas, to accommodate Cristiano? Something happens where, unfortunately, he has to miss a few months of football. Is there any guarantee the guy's going to come back? He's 35 now, so can we not just move on from that?
Yeah.
And just go with this style that, because Sarri's been brought in, let's give him the tools to do that.
Yeah. I took a little bit of heat for my unsellable list that I recently put out. It was very short. It was very, very short. It was Demiral, De Ligt, Bentancur, Dybala. I could see Chesney being on there. That's fine. But Ronaldo, obviously, I drew some heat for that. And the only reason I don't have him on there is because of his age. It seems to me like we need to look to the future. We need to build. We need to get the chemistry there. It's not taken away from Ronaldo. How can you take anything away from Ronaldo? The guy's a freak. He's one of the greatest ever. It's not taking anything away from him. It's just looking at our club and the situation we're in. We have a lot of dead wood. If an offer was strong enough that came through for Ronaldo, he's not a guy that you could just say flat out no. I think you would have to look at it, because if the offer was strong enough and allowed Juve to bring in multiple players through it, I think they would have to look at that and really think long and hard because of the situation that they put themselves in. So it's not so much anything to do with the player. It's really the team and the situation, and factoring in his age. He's not going to be able to play forever. And do you want to, we're not in a win it now scenario anymore. We're just not. And I said this before a while ago on the podcast. I can't remember which episode, but I said what this Ronaldo move did for us. Off the pitch, gave us the recognition we wanted, brought the attention, brought the revenue. On the pitch, it highlighted how far off where we want to be we actually are. We thought we were this close. We were actually this far away is what ended up happening. That's exactly what ended up happening when we brought Ronaldo on. We thought this could be the difference maker you could do. I was one of them. I thought, holy, this could be it. But we saw, wow, we are not actually anywhere near where we need to be. And we need to start making changes, and the business needs to change. All those extensions, uses. But yeah, I agree. Like on the play, it's something I've said a lot. We have too many guys that want the ball to feet, that want to create the plays, and we don't have guys just trying to get in behind defenders, making runs, creating space for us, sacrificing themselves. Higuain did a really good job earlier in the year, sacrificing himself to get Ronaldo free, to get Dybala free. He sacrificed his stats essentially just to make everything work. Bernardeschi, he takes a lot of heat. I understand. Yeah, he makes runs. He moves
off the ball. He makes that option. He gives you energy. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. Bernardeschi he's so frustrating because there is a player there. We've seen glimpses of it, especially against Atletico Madrid last year. Okay, Ronaldo got all the headlines for going to hat-trick, 2 years ago. Yeah. So there is a player there, but he doesn't make those runs that Sarri. You can see why he plays. Okay, Douglas Costa's he's eternally injured, but Bernardeschi, you can see why, he fit into that style of play, because as you say, he makes those runs, he attacks the space, he makes the pitch bigger.
Yeah, exactly. When he's gone away from it in the past couple matches, but when we had the good stretch, he was staying wide and he was giving us that angle. He was running at the back line. He was getting in behind them so we could play the ball over the top, and then he was attacking the goal. our wingers become so narrow. Our whole play becomes so narrow. We become very easy to defend. And if you're trying to break down a team that's parking the bus by playing narrow, you never will. You'll never do it. You need to do it with width. You need to use all the spaces. You need to get them to move. And this game was a lot of just standing around. One guy with the ball, everybody's standing around. So that needs to change. But yeah, we need to get the guys. Bernardeschi, the execution isn't there. We know it. But it's those traits that we need. We need a guy that's going to run at the defense, try to get in behind, attack spaces and whatnot. I've been like a broken record when it comes to attacking space, but it's literally the one thing that stands out to me. We do not do it. Like, we don't do it at all. This prime example with Muratore going to the left, great ball progression. We are catching Cagliari off, unbalanced. There's nobody there to play the ball. I just laughed. I threw my arms up and just laughed. I said, how is this a professional football team? But we talk about CR7 and Dybala. Obviously, Dybala's fitness in question for the return leg against Lyon in Champions League. I had a question at the end of the podcast there, and I asked the panel, I said, guys, what's your confidence level when it comes to Champions League? We were at 4s, 5s, 6s out of 10. I had somebody comment, and they said 10 out of 10 on YouTube that we will get past Lyon. And I said, wow, I hope you're right, but I do not feel that sense of optimism. And I want to get your thoughts on, first of all, it's crucial for me that Dybala be in the lineup. If he's not in the lineup, we're already behind the 8 ball, because even this match against Cagliari, you could see it. He switches the play when it needs to be switched. He gets the right progression, always going on the ball. He can beat guys. He can obviously score goals. He can assist them. He can create, because we still lack the creation from the middle of the park. And this is one of the problems with Dybala. He has to drop so far back. There was times in that match when he got injured, I saw him behind Pjanic. That's shocking. Yeah. It's absolutely shocking for a guy who's playing your false 9, center forward, whatever you want to call it. It's shocking to see him have to come back behind your regista to get the ball and get build-up happening. But what are your thoughts going into this return leg at Champions League and Dybala's fitness and whatnot? How confident are you in you?
I think just touching on where you left off there about Dybala's position sometimes being almost in centre midfield. Now, I think that's okay. Again, going back to the style of play and that machine type of kind of thinking of how you're going to position yourself on the pitch. Dybala's dropping to midfield. If you've got 2 wingers, so Ronaldo and Douglas Costa, making those runs, then yeah, I agree. But Dybala's dropping, Ronaldo's staying left, looking for the ball in the feet, and so is Douglas Costa. So as you say, everything's condensed into midfield. It's, to me personally, it's just the ideas we've been kind of drummed into over the years with Allegri, and also the style of players we have. We don't have players that attack the spaces. Going into the Lyon game, yeah, you're spot on. I think it's absolutely crucial. For the Roma game, I think Sarri touched on it, which again is really frustrating after the kind of Cagliari game last night in his press conference. He'd mentioned, I can't remember correctly, but he was complaining about the fixtures in the league. He was looking to maybe field under 23 players for the Roma game. Why not do that for the Cagliari game? Why not give your players rest?
Yeah, that's the frustrating part about.
You've answered your own question. Give the guys a rest. These under 23. Last night I started to enjoy the game more when the under 23 players come in. Because they're obviously fresh. Give them a chance.
Celebrated the Scudetto, for God's sakes. Just let those guys rest, play them, and then if you wanted to do a mix for the Roma match, to just get a decent run in and sub those guys off. You got 5 subs, and then let them rest, and then do your training leading up to Lyon. So it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But continue on with Champions League and your confidence level in this club. And
So basically, if we can, I think Sarri will give a lot of the guys a rest. Quadrado, Bentancur, Bonucci, all these kind of players. I'm hoping Bernardeschi gets a rest as well, because I doubt for him. I mean, I see it highly unlikely that we'll start with an under 23 for the Lyon game. So if we give these guys a rest, then my confidence levels, I would say it's moderate. I would give myself probably 6 to 6.5. But we need to remember Lyon are a physical side. They play at high tempo. They already know that obviously we are fragile at the back. I mean, but again, Juventus like to surprise us. So sometimes when the chips are down, we produce our best football. So I think Sarri will live or die by what he does in the Champions League. I think Agnelli didn't want him from the start. I think Sarri's choice was through Nedved and Paratici. So I think, and obviously you touched on it in a previous podcast of Agnelli going down into the changing room at the interval. So that's probably something he would never have done. I don't remember him ever doing anything like that.
yeah, I tried to think back, and I'm like, I can't remember Agnelli ever going down there at half.
So
You
I
know,
think he's on his radar. So I think whatever he does in this Champions League, he'll live or die, because I don't think there'll be huge differences in the Calcio Mercado because of the pandemic. I think all teams' budgets will be restricted. I think we'll see a lot of swap deals. And again, we're looking at potentially 10, 12 players that we really need to move on. That's a lot to ask
well,
in one
that's just it,
transfer.
right?
So we might
It's
have to content ourselves with what we've got at the moment with a few additions.
yeah. I mean, honestly, it's just I keep saying it, but the pandemic's really opened our eyes to the type of business we were doing and the changes that need to be made. If anything, hopefully, this pandemic kind of gets them doing business the right way and move forward the way they need to. Oddly enough, there was talks of extensions earlier on pre-pandemic for guys like Matuidi, guys like Bernardeschi and stuff. And then all of a sudden it all put on hold. And it was like, good, because you shouldn't be extending those guys. Why are
Yeah,
we extending contracts of a guy like Matuidi who's been, everybody can see he's not at the technical ability that we need in a three-man midfield. He's just
yeah,
not. Um, Bernardeschi has been, if you can have a guy at the club for multiple years and count on one hand how many times he's had good performances, there's an issue there. Whether it's the style we're trying to play or whatever the problem is, even if it's not him personally, it hasn't worked. Okay, so it's time to move on. Why are we looking to extend this? What are we doing here? And it's just like, make a move. There's still teams interested. Like, the guy's young enough. Make a move. Matuidi, there's still teams interested in Matuidi. Make the move. Get those
yeah,
transfers gone. The other thing is too, sometimes we make these transfers, we're making signings and we haven't even moved guys that we need to,
yeah,
and then you run into a situation where you're all of a sudden you're struggling, and then you start having to get rid of guys you shouldn't be. You start making transfers that you don't need to be because you're in a scramble to write the books. How many times have we seen that?
yeah, yeah.
I think it's an eye-opener as far as business goes. We have had some promising moves. We touched on it. Kulusevski, Arthur. Kulusevski now, been reports saying that already talked to the club, and Sarri sees him as playing the number 10 role. They say that Kulusevski's talked to the club. He's even willing to train specifically for that role. I look at this and I think immediately we're doing what we've done in the past, which is try to take a player and change him, right? And adapt him rather than getting guys, fitting a set system and plug and play, right? Keeping things most comfortable. Number one, I don't really believe this report anyways, because I'm not 100% sold that Sarri's still even going to be there. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt. As far as him playing in the number 10 role, that would theoretically mean we're going to go to like a 4-3-1-2 honestly, we've talked about the issues on the pitch. We become too narrow. And honestly, whether it's Kulusevski, whether it's Dybala, whether it's Bernardeschi, whether it's Ramsey, we get the guys easily isolated, marked, and ruled out of matches. I don't think Kulusevski would do anything different if we played a 4-3-1-2 than we've already seen this year with the other guys being frustrated, and it's too easy to defend because all the play is funneled through there and our fullbacks aren't involved enough that those trequartistas get taken right out of the play. If you wanted to do a trequartista role, the true way would be to adopt a two-man pivot system where it's 4-2-3-1, and then you have two CDMs, you pivot, and then you've got your wingers truly out wide, and you could make it work that way. One true center forward ahead of them, and now the issue becomes it would never work with Cristiano Ronaldo because he doesn't give you the defensive phase you would need out of that left side. So these are the issues that we're trying to deal with at Juventus, and it's very, very difficult. But I think in a 4-3-1-2, Kulusevski in there, I don't see it working. But I want to get your thoughts on Kulusevski, this number 10 role, and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think the 4-3-1-2 formation, it's a dying breed. I mean, you look at the top clubs around Europe, very few people play with the old Marcello Lippi style Zidane. I mean, Pavel Nedved adopted it. Football's evolving daily, almost. When we signed Kulusevski, of course, obviously I will admit I never really knew much about the guy, so automatically you take to YouTube and then look at some of his clips, look at some of the things he's done. And I have recently been watching a few of the Parma games, obviously on TV coverage. The first thing that strikes me of the guy, it gives you natural width, something that we've touched on it. We lack so much natural width. He keeps the game spread. He runs behind the defenders. He's always got the defenders guessing, and he's got the defenders running back the way. He's got a wicked left foot, but I think he needs to stay wide. If you put him, as you say, if you put him in behind the forwards, he loses that progression on the pitch. He needs that 10, 20 yards where he can run at someone or potentially cut on his left foot, which he's really good at. But again, everything hinges on CR7. You can't play a 4-3-1-2 with Ronaldo and Dybala because, as you say, you're essentially playing with two out-and-out strikers. Ronaldo will always hug that left-hand side. Natural position, that's where he wants to play, and I think he's deserved the right. He's good at what he does.
Yeah.
But do we really want to go down that road again next year, or do we just bite the... Again, I think a lot will depend on Ronaldo, because I think he's the kind of guy where if he gets fed up, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out him going next season. I really wouldn't. Just like I wouldn't rule him out staying another season. But the club need to address this before we get too late, because I think if Ronaldo leaves, then we can start to obviously talk about formations. I mean, Chiesa was mentioned. Chiesa, you can say what you want about the guy, but I think he gives you that natural 4-3-3. Because he's very like Kulusevski. He stays wide, he attacks the space, and he gives you loads of energy, which we lack. We lack so much energy. We're so flat.
Yeah. I've taken a lot of heat, Antonio, for my thoughts on Chiesa because, and here's the thing too, if you look at his stats in a very bad year for him, they're still not far off, and they're better than what we're getting out of these guys. Like Berna, Costa, his numbers are still better, and he's with Fiorentina, who's like in a terrible
and he's Italian as well, Alberto. We've got no Italians in that team. He understands what it means to play with Juve, you know.
But the price tag has become ridiculous for Chiesa. The price tag is far, far too long. Like, if we're talking 60, 70 million, that is insane. It's and that's one thing I cannot defend. My thoughts on him as a player, because I do like all those things you touch on. I like how he attacks space. I like how he plays with pace. I like how he's direct. He's always wanting to push the play to goal, push at the defenders. But I cannot, by any way, shape, or form, justify 70 million euros for this kid in a post-pandemic market. I can't. I can't do it. It's too much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Uh,
but we'll see what ends up happening. I mean, the heavy talks seem to be Milik and Chiesa right now that are floating around. As far as other players, because I still say our number one priority is another midfielder. Arthur alone will not
yeah.
seal it. Locatelli, Zaniolo, Aouar, and Van de Beek, apparently none of those four will be coming. Not one of them. This I find shocking because they're all at good values. And deals should be made for at least one of these guys, in my opinion, if you're Juve. But how about a guy like Lorenzo Pellegrini? I put this post, I said, that's fine. If we're not going to get these four, how about Lorenzo Pellegrini, who's got like a 25 to 30 million euro release clause? He'd be perfect in our midfield. He would do
Yep.
just fine. He's a good, solid player. And this is the thing. We always want that flash. And I do think we need an elite player in the midfield. We have elites up top. We have an elite at the back in Matthias de Ligt. We don't have an elite in the middle. And I don't believe Arthur is an elite. I haven't seen it. I haven't heard of anybody, even Barca fans that I've talked to. I haven't heard anybody say like he's elite. They said, yeah, he's a good player. They also don't believe he's going to be a regista, but we'll see what happens. But we've also forgot about Tonali. Everybody's forgotten about Tonali completely. So I'm just thinking, like, what are your thoughts here? Like, it would be a huge failure to me if we don't land one of these guys.
Yeah, I think you touched on a name that Van de Beek. I mean, I watched Ajax when De Ligt was there last year. Ajax were phenomenal to watch. I mean, they were probably the best Ajax team I've seen since probably the mid-90s. That Van de Beek, in my opinion, was so underrated. His performances were far better than De Jong, and De Jong landed the Barcelona move, and he's been terrible, and he's been dreadful since then. So I think Van de Beek would have been a great move for us. But I think I like the Italian players. I really do. As I say, we don't have that Italian breed that we used to do. Well, obviously Del Piero's, Totti's, Baggio, all those kind of guys. But Zaniolo and Chiesa, they understand what it means to play with a club like Juventus. I think Zaniolo is even a Juve fan.
Yeah.
So it'd be a good restart point because we're going to have to restart sooner or later. This year, Sarri won the league, and let's not forget he's won the league in a season where Atalanta's had arguably the best season ever. Lazio is overperforming, and Merda spent a lot of money to be even that close to. So taking those three factors into consideration, for him to win the league this season, I mean, he's done okay. So I just think if we bring in, we're going to have to restart sometime. We're going to have to restart, press the reset button and restart. So it'd be good to restart with that Italian nucleus of young blood that understand what it means to play with Juve and give you that grinta, that passion. And Sarri can then translate these ideas to guys who almost they've got that connection with the Italian team as well. So I think we've lost that. We really have lost that.
Yeah.
But midfield, we need that spark. We need that Pogba. I'm almost against him coming back a bit because I think just financially it doesn't make sense, especially in the pandemic. I don't think it's going to be doable. I think the asking price for Zaniolo, again, it's going to be elevated. It's probably going to be it's going to be out of our budget. But let's see how clever Paratici is with those uncertain players that maybe Roma might like. As I say, a lot is down to how his work's conducted as well. Because I think Agnelli sees a lot of potential in Paratici. That's why Marotta was moved on. I think Paratici was always the one that never got the praise. Marotta was always at the front, at the front of line, getting all the praise. So I think if he can do a bit of wheeling and dealing, I think it would be possible to get Zaniolo and also Chiesa at a cheaper price.
Yeah, well, I mean, before we still had a lot of Marotta influence. Now this particular scenario will be all Paratici, so it'll be interesting to see. This will be essentially the Mercado where him and Nedved will truly start to separate, and what they're doing will start to come through, and then we'll gauge whether it's good enough or not, and see what ends up happening. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting Mercado for sure, and we'll see how clever Barachi can be and what he can muster up. But definitely a midfielder, definitely a striker, definitely some fullbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of everything we want to go. And I just want to have a couple fun, quick questions with you as we wrap up. Antonio, it's been awesome having you on. Very, very happy that a guy that's not even on social media just types in Juve podcast on Spotify, finds me, and we're able to link up. Awesome. But the new jerseys are out today, new kits. Do you collect Juve kits or not? Are you a big kit guy? And what do you think of it? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I think it's an upgrade on that monstrosity that we had this season, because that half black, half white, I mean, that's just, we've lost identity on the pitch and off the pitch, I say. But yes,
Said that a lot.
it's an improvement. It's an improvement, as I say, but I won't be rushing out to buy it, no.
No, okay. And your MVP of this particular season?
Now, this is interesting because obviously I listened to your last podcast, and I think it was more or less a toss-up between Mateus and Paulino. Me personally, I would say Dybala, because now I'm not taking it away from Villet, because I think the guy's been sensational. We need to tie this guy down. We don't accept any money for him. We need to make a stance on him. But Dybala, there's been so much talk, so much hype around the guy. Is he going to make that step up the platform? Is he ever going to be? Is he ever going to merit the number 10 that he wears on his back? And this year he's done it. His performances, especially in the Inter game pre-pandemic, and his performances after, he's just been on a different planet. That's why I say, if we're going to give a striker a free role, give it to Paulo Dybala and let Cristiano move on and build the team round about Dybala. Yeah. So definitely Paulino for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and essentially I rated mine, I know, because I said you could go Ronaldo, you could go Dybala, you could go De Ligt. For me, it was the consistency. I could think of maybe less than a handful of matches where Dybala was kind of off, but I look at him statistically and I factor in the fact he wasn't getting starts earlier in the season, but every single time he stepped on the pitch, he was a difference maker. He's been consistent the whole year through. And when you look at Ronaldo and De Ligt, they had rough patches where Dybala didn't really have that. He was steady the entire season. And the biggest thing for me was that switch in mentality where his mental toughness was getting questioned. And this season, he just shattered that theory. And he's been a force. Yeah, so that's awesome. Again, Antonio, I thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We will definitely do this again next season. And thank you to everybody again as we're getting close to the wrap up for the season. It's been an absolute pleasure. Had so many first-time guests joining me. That's the best. It's the reason I started the podcast, was meeting all you Juventini all over the world and hearing all your thoughts and opinions. So you guys have made this year a tremendous success. Thank you. Thank you for all the success with Striped Hearts Apparel, and stay tuned for the next drop for that one. Something very, very special coming up. And we will catch you again with another guest after Roma as we do our wrap up and then get ready for the Champions League. As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.